Welcome to the dynamic learning hub of XLR at Anderi East. A prime spot conveniently located at just a 5-minute walk from LIC Anderi Metro. In our journey of over a decade, we have proudly trained over 2 lakh students. We have also been recognized by Deloitte, Silicon India, and other accreditation bodies. Experience learning like never before in our spacious and comfortable classrooms. With high-definition projectors and state-of-the-art acoustics in place, we ensure effective learning even to the farthest point in the room. The hybrid mode is a game changer as you can enjoy the benefits of a live classroom from the comfort of your home. Even if you happen to miss any classroom session, you can still attend the same session with the same trainer at the same time at your convenience, maintaining consistency in your learning progress. Wanna get started? Join us for a demo or career chat over a cup of coffee at our Anderi branch. XLR. We don't just train, we build careers.
Yes, so the collaboration with XLR was an excellent one. We conducted a Power BI workshop with Advanced Excel over a span of 3 days. The workshop was almost 12 hours long in total. Mr. Karthik, who was an amazing trainer, helped the students understand the concepts deeply. I am sure that the students will be able to apply these concepts in their careers as well as their daily lives.
The trainer, Mr. Karthik, was an excellent person where he explained in very detailed manner on how to give great insights using very complex data sets.
So it was a machine learning workshop. We learned a lot from the course and it was a great experience attending the workshop.
The trainer was very helpful. He had a hands-on approach with his teaching and it was fabulous.
This was a great experience for me. So I would absolutely love it if XLR and its team would come again to our campus and conduct more events like this.
It was a great course and it started from basics and took me to a great extent.
The experience of the workshop was really nice. The feedback from all the students was positive. They understood the concept. The workshop was also practical based with some questions. The experience with XLR was very smooth. They helped us in conducting the workshop smoothly right from the booking of the vendor and deciding the course till the distribution of certificates. In overall, this workshop was a success during our Technical Fest Atmos, and I thank XLR for being a part of it.
Good evening, all. I hope you all doing well. Students, kindly inform your friends to join the session. Good evening, Aditya sir.
Good evening, ma'am.
Yeah, you can start the session, sir.
Okay, ma'am. Hello, everyone. Am I audible to all of you right now? Okay, thank you very much for the verification. Let me share my screen, then we are going to start. Just give me a moment. So today we are going to talk about the remaining part of the advanced SOQL, and then we are moving to the next thing, which is exception handling, and after that we are moved to the next topic, which is the most important topic in Salesforce development, which is triggers. So let me just share my screen, then we are going to start. Okay, I think my screen is visible to all of you. Can anyone please confirm? Is my screen visible to all of you right now? Thank you very much. So today we are going to talk about the remaining part of the advanced SQL. In the last class, we talked about the aggregate functions, and we already see some aggregate function like the sum, min, max, or the average function, and the aggregate function, which was going to work very properly if a data set is handling the amount of is some amount or money related thing. So in your database, if you have a table which has some fields which are going to have amounts, then these functions are very useful. Also, you can see we can use group by clause to take the information also of the particular data set. Is my screen visible to you? I think no, it was not. Just let me share again. Okay, wait a second. Is my screen visible to you right now? Yeah, it is as well. So we also talk about the group by clause, which was going to work as a basic, or you can say, sorry for this, group by clause or aggregate function, which is going to aggregate our particular methods with some group by clause to give us better results. Now today we are going to talk about and see this query in more detail. So in the last class, if you remember correctly, what I told you, I'm already told you about the having clause, like how this having clause or how we aggregate some functions in here or how we group the function. Suppose in the opportunity table there are some data which has an amount and you want to see only those amounts which was really important for you and not the other amount. So at that time what you are going to do and how you are going to write your query. For this, see, we already talked about the basic sum or average, min, max, other thing. So the first thing we need to write is to select what you want to select. After specifying this statement, you need to specify the next statement, which is the important. And the next statement is the statement which we are actually going to else, which is the name. And here you need to write a name. For example, you want to get the information of about whose balance. Suppose in a database, let me show you here. Let me share this tab instead. Share this tab. If I open Salesforce here. So right now I'm in Salesforce, and if I open the opportunities here, because we are right now fetching the opportunities. So if I click on view roles, here you can see you have two options. Either you can go to the setup section to see, or either you can see directly from here. So here I'm searching for opportunity. If I just scroll a scroll down, here I will Okay, so here we got the opportunity table or opportunity object where we are actually fetching the data. Right now you see in this opportunity object we don't have anything, but if I click on this recent view and click on all opportunities, here we see we are going to get some opportunities. Like here you can see there are some amounts in this opportunity table and they are the close date and this. Suppose here you can see these are the account name and these are the opportunities. Now suppose you only want to get the information of those accounts or those opportunities whose balance is like greater than 1K or 100K or 1,00,000 dollars. So how we are going to get those information? Also with the amount, I also want to get the opportunity name and account name. Then how I am going to do this? And this is the crucial part. So let's come to the developer console and see how we are going to write a query, which is going to show only those amount which has the query or which has a higher part. For example, which has a value like greater than 1 million. And we are going to see only those records from the objects and also with their name. So first thing you need to write is the select, and after this, the next thing you need to write is the stage and then the name. For example, here you need to write here two things together. The first thing will be stage name here, and this stage name is going to refer to the name or to the particular thing which you are going to write. So here right now we are accessing the name, that's why I'm writing a stage, and then after this you need to write name. Now here after writing the stage name, the next thing you need to write the condition. Like here we are getting the condition of the sum. So here you need to write select a stage name. After this, you need to give the second query which is important and that is sum. Now here we are using sum and what we are getting? We are getting the minimum or maximum because here we are getting either minimum, max or else. But remember sum is going to take a parameter and that parameter is the field where you are going to access it. Like here if you see this time this sum is actually accessing on this field, this amount field. So where this sum is going to form? So this sum is going to perform on the amount section. So we are performing this sum on the amount section. So inside this sum, you need to specify the thing which you're specifying. So we are specifying amount. First is the stage name or which is the name of our particular person those have these data. After this, you need to specify what you are going to get. So we are getting sum here. And from where we are getting? We are getting this from amount object. You can say amount table. After this, the next thing you need to specify is from where you are taking this thing. So we are taking these things from the opportunity table. So from, let me just make it a little bit bigger. So we are taking this thing from opportunity. So we need to specify here the object name. Remember, if you are writing the object name, you always need it to be focused that you don't write or write the wrong object name. If you just make a small mistake in the names, it was going to produce an error. So what we are going to do here, we are just simply I'm just copying of writing the opportunity. After this was a very simple query. We are going to select a stage name, some amount from opportunity. But what happened if I try to execute this on the query? So let's copy this line here, Control C. And now if I try to just execute this piece of code, you see what I'm going to get. So if I come on the query editor, and here if I just copy this code, piece of code, and here if I click on execute, you see here I get an error on some amount column invalid field amounts. Okay, so this is the first error I'm getting about the invalid field of amount. Okay, so this will be instead of AMM, it will be single AM. Okay, so now this will work. Now if this time if I click on execute, here we see we get a malformed query. Now what is this error? This was an error which was generated during a SQL statement. And it does say that field must be grouped or aggregated. A stage name means this field must be grouped or aggregated by this stage name, otherwise we are not going to get this. So how we are going to get this? For getting this we need to aggregate here. So what I'm going to do here, you need to write a condition in the initial phase like where. See, still I'm not going to write where. First the thing which I'm going to do is aggregate this thing. So how you're going to aggregate this thing? For aggregating a particular field, what you need to do, you need to write here group by. So if you write here group by, group, then by, write group by, and after this you need to specify what you are grouping. So we are grouping this with the stage name. So whatever name or whatever field you want to access, you need to specify at the last that these were accessed by group by stage name. Now, if this time if I just execute this piece of code, this time I'm not going to get any error, and I'm also going to see the amounts and the name also. So if I control C here and paste these piece of code here and click on execute, let's see what we are going to get. So this time if you see, the code was executed successfully, and here you see we are going to get everything like national reviews. We are now getting the names and amounts. Now if I come on the here in this section, and here if I share this tab instead, here you can see this is not account name or opportunity name. So this is a different field which I'm trying to access out now, which is the stage name. Share this tab, which is this stage name actually. So this is the stage name like ID, decision maker, value proposition, need analysis, close one. Like these are the stage names where it was working. Now, if I just go a little bit more up and I try to modify this rows a little bit more, let's see what I'm going to get. Now, I'm just going to modify this result to get only those results who have 3 lakhs plus or more than 3 lakhs of unit. And then I'm going to see how or what I'm going to get at that time. Now, after this, you see, if I show you the real tab here in this section, you can see here there are total 31 rows, but we are only getting 9 rows in the previous because we actually use the stage name. That's why we are getting that. If I just remove here from the stage name, instead of stage name, if I just use this particular thing, which is this name actually, account name, then I'm not going to get this error. For this, first of all, I need to check the API name of this thing. How I'm going to do, I need to click on the setup icon. And when I click on this setup, I will just open a new tab. In this section, I need to go and I need to find the API name, or you can say the field name of the opportunities. So if I come on the opportunities here, let me come a little bit upper. Okay. So here you can see we have the opportunities. Now if I click on the opportunities and click on the field and relationship, I'm going to get the field of this section. So here you can say account name is known by account ID. And in this section, let me just go a little bit down, a little bit more. And here you can see we get the stages which we are actually right now referring. But this time I'm instead of state ID, I'm going to use this account ID. So if I copy this account ID and come to the developer console, and now if I share this tab, or instead of I removing stage name. So remember, whatever field you want to access, first you just need to specify that field like this field, control V, the account field, account ID. Then what you are going to get, so we are going to get some amount. After this from opportunity group by account ID. So you need to remove this also. And this is how you are going to get the information based on a number. After this, if I run this query now this time, we are going to get 31 rows because we are right now getting these things on the base of account ID. So control C, and instead of this code, let me just make it this. Just remove this piece of code from here. And now if I just paste this piece of code, this time it was going to work smoothly and we are going to get out. So now if I click on here, execute, here you can see we get again, okay, so okay, now this is not going to give us any error. So now this will work properly. Finally, let me just make this small. Now here you can see we are total getting rows. Again, we are going to get the results of 9 results. Now here we get the amounts or some amounts particular, you can say the field. And here you are getting the account ID and these pieces of information. But still I'm not getting the section which I actually want, account name. So let's share this tab instead and try to get that piece of information. So if you just scroll a little bit down here, a little bit more down, here you can see in this section we are actually not getting the name option. Here we have other opportunity name or opportunity owner. So if I just change the thing from stage name to only name, let me see what type of query I'm going to get, or does it going to change something else or not. So now in this time, what I'm going to do, I'm going to change this account ID to name only. So if I just change it from account ID to name, and the same thing is here. Name. Now if this time if I click on execute, query was again successfully executed, and here we get all 27 rows of which was available in this opportunity tab, and we get all the result here this time. Like there are 27, but there are some of which is duplicate. Like here you can see untitled oil refinery, which is had duplicate value. So we will get not duplicate value. Now if you see this untitled oil refinery generation has two tabs, and if you just go see this is 270 and 915. Like it was a very high much amount. Now if you come into developer console and you search for here United Oil, where it was more refinery generators, okay, which is that let me just see, it is actually the United, where does go, okay, this is United Oil refined generators. So if I just go a little bit down to oil refined generators, a little bit more up, okay, it was not showing here, installer green tabulation SLA. So here you see we are only going to get the those information which is either unique. We are not going in duplicate value. That's why we are discarded 5 rows, or you can say 4 rows which has duplicate value, and we only get the real value. Now in this section, suppose you only want to get the value where the amount is greater than 1 lakh or the amount is greater than like a period of thing. So what you are going to do, we also use the where keyword inside this section. So how we are going to use the where keyword? So after from opportunity, if here you specify the keyword name where like where amount is equal to, where after this you need to give a condition. So the condition I am going to give here is the amount which is greater than a fixed amount of time. So like amount which is greater than, suppose I'm checking like now 500,000 lakh. So now this particular piece of code is going to give me only those amounts which is greater than this value. Otherwise, I'm not going to get any value. Okay, I need to remove 1 0 actually. It is okay. Now this will work properly. Now this time if I click on execution, I will get only those values which amount is greater. And this time we are getting the total rows file. And this is very useful when you are dealing with amount and you want a specific amount or a specific clients like this type of patient. Now after that we have some more queries in the advanced SQL, and we are going to talk about also the others. So the after this aggregate function, we have the second thing which is the aggregate result, like how we are going to modify the aggregate result. So if I just show you what is the aggregate result, just write the code here. So suppose you can also write these information in a class also, and you also try to print everything using the debugger console. Like till now you can see we are actually writing everything here, and we are actually printing every piece of information, or you can see everything on the variator. But you can also have an option to combine this with the SQL, or you can see the particular just suppose what I'm trying to tell you is you can combine with this actually Apex programming language, means you can integrate with Apex programming, and you will get all the results through Apex programming language, and that is very useful because we are actually going to deal with this Apex initially. So we need to also understand that how this Apex query is going to work. So right now I'm going to write the same queries in the dev console and show you how this works in Apex programming. So if I share this tab and set that, and if I click on the debugger console here, and here we are going to write some queries on the Apex itself. So how we are going to write the query in Apex? So for writing a query in Apex programming language is not that crucial that we are going to think. So how we are going to get? So here we are going to get our aggregate result or any other thing without alias or using expression. We are going to get our result and see how these things actually work. So just give me a second, guys. Just give me 5 minutes. I'm just going to start it. Just give me 4 minutes. Okay, so sorry for the delay. So here we are going to write our code, which is going to represent, or which was going to give us the results in a aggregate result. So how we are going to get aggregate? So getting aggregate result is not very tough. What we need to do, we need to first write some specific conditions, which is going to give us, or which was going to return us a very good thing, like result in a particular, you can say, list, and then we are going to print that list and try to understand what is that. So how we are going to do this? See, when you try to print an aggregate result, you are not going to do anything or any tough thing. So first of all, aggregate is also an object, and we are going to create an list for that, like the same way we are doing inside the DML queries like we created, where we know that account, where we are assuming, or where we know and that account is an data type, and we are using that account data type to create a list. So we created a list of account data type. The same way we are going to with the aggregate function. Now how we are going to write this? So first let me write the code, then I'm going to explain you what was actually happening. So if I need to write here this, first of all I need to write a very simple thing which is going to store a piece of list. Now what is this? This will be a statement and which will by default in the here. So it will like aggregate. Okay, after this I need to write results, aggregate result and square bracket. So here you see I write just aggregate result, and this will be going to E actually actually it was not showing REAG ATG aggregate, then I have result. This will be fine. Okay, this will be fine. Aggregate result, then group result. So aggregate result, then group result. So here you see I write two conditions. The first thing is aggregate result, and then second is group result, and equal to here 0 equal. Now let's first understand what is this aggregate result and this square bracket, and what is this group result and square bracket. So what is this? So simply if I try to say you in a single words, so this line means create a list of results that will store the group data. So here you can see aggregate result is going to store a group of data from the SQL query, and it was going to create a list of results, nothing more. Like here you can see the first line we write an aggregate result. Like what is this aggregate result? So aggregate result is a special object, and if you remember object is something which was a database, or which you can say is something which is stored data inside the SQL in a form of fields and tables like the database. Now is a special object an object that holds the summary. What it was going to hold, this particular aggregate result is holding something. It is holding the summary of group results from a SQL query. Like if you use max, min, average, sum, count by, like these type of functions, this particular object is going to hold all of these things. Like simply if you think about like a table row that hold calculated value, not regular record. So it was not actually storing regular records like name, email, address. It was not actually storing this. It was only storing calculated value. Now the second thing you need to understand, like what is this aggregate result? So this aggregate result is a list of array. So basically in simple terms I say it was a list of array, and I think many of you identified the starting phase because we have to open a square bracket, and this aggregate result is right now empty and it does not have anything. Each item in this representation, one group like a stage and opportunity name. So here we have everything like you have a stage name and other thing in this aggregate, and we are going to loop this to get the value of min, max, and other. So let's try to execute this code and see what we are going to get this thing. And here you can see this group result. This is actually a variable which is holding the group row or nothing more. So aggregate result is actually a list of row for everything which we are going to store, and the group result is actually a variable that was holding all those group row or nothing. Let me try to write the code here and see how this code is going. So here we created a basic, or you can say a simple array which was right now empty, and variable, a local variable, which was going to work as a fetching data from that. So now let's try to write our the next thing in this program. Let's see how this is working. After this, you need to write your query, which is going to give this some specific information. And if you remember correctly, I have written already a query in the last class. Let me just get this query. I think this will be on the next. Okay, so here I'm just doing to write a simple query. Okay, I will find it. So if you remember correctly, this is the query. Let me just make it a little bit small. So here you see what I write here, a simple query. So aggregate result, group result is equal to select name, max select name, stage name, max amount, min amount, average amount from opportunity, group by stage. So we are actually selecting stage names. So stage name means you need the field or relation which you want to select. After this, what I select, I will select the max amount, min amount, average amount from opportunity. So what this was going to do, it was going to show me the max amount, min amount, and average amount of the opportunity with the stage name also. So if you run this query alone in the query editor without doing anything, what you are going to get, let me just first show you. So if I open this query editor here this time and just make it little bit here and just try to write the same query here and click on execute. Here you see the code was executed again successfully, query was executed successfully. And if you see, we are getting the same thing, max amount, min amount, and average amount. And the query result, or you can see the stage names of everything. Like these are the things we are going to get when we run this query. So this is a simple query which was going to give us a simple results. Now after this, if I click on execute this time, let's see does this give us an error. So if I click on execute highlighted and click here, here you see this was actually successfully executed. Now if you come here and just go, let me just make it. This is a little bit small, I think. So this will be good. Now if you see here and if you scroll a little bit down, or either you search for three things. So first thing you're going to search for SOQL and you will find how many SOQL query execute here. So here if you see there will be no any SOQL or you can say structured query language which actually execute here. So here if I just write SOQL, you can see here we get a message that SOQL query and it means structure of Salesforce object query language 1 out of 200 because we are also selecting running a SOQL query here like this query. After this, if you just remove this section again, and if you scroll a little bit down here more and go to down, here you are able to see how many SQL. So we are running one query and how many queries rows we are getting. So we are getting total 31 query from this particular piece of thing out of 5,000. So our limit was still appended. Here you see we are not executing any DML statement. Maximum heap size will be also right now 0 and everything. Means we are not executing anything, we are only executing one single query and we are getting that much of record. And this is all we want. Now after this, our code was executed successfully. But here what I'm going to do, I'm going to print this information in this debugger console. So when you want to print information in the debugger console, what you are going to do, we are going to write here a loop. And this loop is actually going to print all the values here. So first of all, I need to write here a for loop. So here I'm going to write a loop for, and this loop is actually going to fetch the data for this aggregate. Now let's try to write this whole loop clearly and see how this was going to work. So first you need to write the aggregate result, which is this inside this for loop, and then you need to give the particular local variable and from where it was going to fetch. So here you can see this is the aggregate result, or you can see that this is the data type. So here you need to write the main thing first, the data type for aggregate result. After this, you need to create a local variable inside the loop like result. And the question is here where this result is going to fetch or where this was going to retrieve the data. So it was going to retrieve the data from group result because this was the actual variable which was holding all of this information. So this piece of code is right now here done, which was actually going to take or fetch all the data from this group by result. This result is going to inside this group result and fetching all data and trying to print on the screen. After this, we are going to do the next thing, which will be the printing part of printing part. But here comes the next part. The printing part in this time is not easy because we are using actually aggregate functions. So the wait a second. I think we have wait a second. We need to print this piece of Rolex. Just let me write it here. Okay, now this will go work properly. Just give me a second. Select this. Hmm. Opportunity group by. So here if you see this, actually I'm just making this a more readable way because this was very small. That's why I'm doing like this. Let me make this a little bit big more. Okay, so here what I did, here this is the whole query. Select stage name, max amount, min amount, average amount from opportunity group by stage name. And here I will write my loop, which is the second part of this code for aggregate result, group by result. And here I need to write the body of the loop. And this is the crucial part. In a simple printing statement, what we did, we just use system.debug. But here we are going to do this in a different way. So how I'm going to do this and how I'm going to print the result. So first of all, I need to give the expression or the here this name. It's system.debug. So here I just need to write system.debug. So system.debug. After this, here comes the main part. What we're going to write. Now, many of you thinking that we are directly going to print right here result in dot operator. No. If we are going to do this, we are going to get some errors. So here we are going to print different results with a name. Like we are going to print stage names and then the result. So here I need to write a basic, you can say a string value, which will be the stage name. After this, the next thing I'm going to do is going to use the addition operator here to perform concatenation, or you can say the addition between two things. After this add operator, what is the next thing I'm going to do? I'm going to use the dot operator because here you can see this is result, and we are going to get the value which we are actually fetching from this. So copy this stage name plus we are printing result dot get. So we are using this result.get method to get the results. Now, which part we are actually getting? Because this is going to get a value. So here we need to pass a value. So if you just scroll, open this thing, what this result.get is going to get. So this was going to get this first thing stage name. So here you need to put double quotes, and inside this you need to pass the stage, because this was actually a string file, and it was going to check that result.get as a stage name or not. Now, if I click on this part, and if I just try to run only these part, let's see what we are going to get. So if I click on execution, here you can see we are getting column 36. Okay, so here I just don't put here a terminator. So now if I just try to execute this piece of part, here you can see the piece is actually executed successfully. And now if you show the debug here, you can see you are able to see all the stage names here on this section. Like here the first piece information. Now the second thing we want to see this max amount, min amount, and average amount. So we also need to write a code for this, and that's why we are writing like this. So we are actually printing multiple things. So first this piece of code only going to print one thing, that is the stage name. After this, if you want to print something else, we need to write the code for that also. Like here, I'm going to write the code which is going to print a different value. So this time, instead of printing that, what I'm going to print, I'm going to print the amounts or other values. So how I'm going to do this? This is not also going to be very tough. After this, you can see dot result dot get stage name. I need to use the plus operator again to perform concatenation. After this, here I need to perform the plus operator. After this plus, here I'm going to use the double quotes again. Where the double quotes here? Single quotes. Okay, two single quotes. And inside the single quotes, I need to give the second value which I want to print. So now if I show you the opportunity table, the second value is this max amount. So now I want to see this max amount. So here I just need to write max amount, and this is actually a string value which you want to show. So I'm just writing max. After writing this max amount, what you need to do next? Like here you can see what we did. First we write the stage name. Sorry for the disturbance, everyone. So after this max amount, here you can see we need to perform here the concatenation again. And this time what we are actually printing, we again going to place plus operator. And this time what we are going to get, we again need to write this result dot get control C, and let's see what was going to happen if I result dot get, and this time what I'm trying to print, it was again going to take a parameter. So this time actually I want to print this max amount, because here I'm just specifying the max amount. So this time I'm trying to fetch this max amount value, and how I'm able to get this max amount. And this is a little bit not complicated here. So when I try to get the max amount, I need to not going to give here the expression name. So you have two options. Either you can give the direct expression, or here you can see this is max amount, min amount. So how we are going to get these values? So if I just specify here max amount, let's see what was going to happen. So if I just copy this, and inside this if I just put double quotes, and here if I just paste this max amount. Now you see when I just do this max amount part, it was actually worked fine. And now if I try to execute this, let's see what we are going to get. Does we are going to get this max amount or not? So if I click on execute, here you can see on line 7 we are expecting this, but was this. Okay. On line 7 actually. Okay, so we are expecting this, but let me just make this thing. Okay, actually this was happened due to this. We are not going to put this inside this bed. This will be outside of the bed. Plus, okay, this is good. Let's execute this. Okay, we are again going to get the same error. Let me just complete this line. Control X, and here let me paste it. Edit this. So system.debug stage name. Okay, after stage name we have everything right. After that we need to see what is the next thing I write after stage name. I am using this plus. Yes, then we have the max amount, and that is correct. After this result dot get max amount, and then the bracket should be here. Okay, so I think here I have two extra brackets actually. That this will be get, and this will be max amount. Okay, and this will be the outer bracket of system.debug. Okay, let me just close this thing here. See what is the error we get. So stage name will be everything will be going to fine. Let's click on execute and see. Line 7 column 50 expecting this, but was this column. Okay. So this is the problem we are going to see. Line 7. Okay, so here this is the problem actually. Now I think this will be fine. Okay, so here you see we are getting this error, and this is a common error when you're trying to write it. Like here you can see system S object expression invalid fix max amount for aggregate result. So when you are trying to print aggregate result and you try to just write this max amount like which you are fetching, then you are going to get this error every time. And this is the you are not going to write here max amount, min amount, or average amount. Now this is a very common problem when you are writing aggregate result. You are always going to get this thing. So what we are going to write? Instead of max amount or min amount, what you're going to write? You're going to write here expression 0, expression 1, and these things. And when you write these values, you're going to get your values again. So here you can see if I just write max amount instead of this max amount, if I here write just one thing like expr expression, and if I write here 0, now this part is done to work properly, because now it will know that we are right now trying to print expression 0, because these, and now many of you thinking why don't we use this expression 0 for stage name? See, stage name is actually a value only, but max, min, and average is like some calculation. So these are actually come in the form of expression, not in a value. So if you want to print this, you need to write like expression 0, expression 1, expression 2. And we are going to get these values using this form, expression 0, expression 1, and like this. We also have one way where whether we are don't going to write this thing. But expression 0, expression 1 is not very good, but it was just a way, so I'm just showing you. So if I click on execute this time, See, if this time the code was executed successfully, and if you see on the debugger section, here you will see two things. The first time has been negotiated review, and then you see the max amount, which will be this value. Now, for getting the same thing, expression 0, you can write all the other things. Like if you write expression 1, you are going to get the min, expression 2, you are going to get the average. And this is how this code is going to work. But what happens if you don't want to use this expression? So see, this is actually known as aliases. Aliases, or you can say aliases is like this, or you can directly write expression. If you don't, you are wanting to use aliases, what you can do, you can just simply write the whole thing. But here we are going to do without aliases. So here, if we don't have aliases, what you're going to do, you are not going to give a meaningful name to the particular thing which you are printing. You are going to write like expression 0, expression 1, expression 2. And this will be a little bit problematic because these are not very much readable and you are not able to understand this thing properly. So let me first send this thing to this code to all of you. Then we are moving to the next code. So let me just copy this, Control C, and let me just send to the chats. Okay, let me just see. I think someone just give me a second. See, there are not two variables. Aggregate result is actually not a variable. It was actually a array, an empty array, where good result is the variable. Aggregate result is not actually an array. Here, if you understand properly this thing, aggregate result is not there. Now, after the alias, don't using alias. When we are not using alias, we need to print everything like this, expression 0 like this. If you want to print one more thing, you need to write all of this code again. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to copy this piece code off from here to here. Just Control C, and after this, in the place of here, I'm just going to place push. So now in the place of max amount, this time this will going to get min amount. So it will be changed from max to min here. Or shift min, and I'm going to give here a little bit of space also for the max. So now this will be finally, and here in the plus section, now this time if I want to fetch the first thing minimum, I just going to change this from expression to 0 and 1. And how this will know? So see, it was going to know by the sequence. The first max amount comes, then this will be expression 0, then min amount will be expression 1, and average amount will be expression 2. And this was stored inside this array. And if you already remember, array indexing will start from 0, 1 to 3. So these piece of information was actually stored in the array in this form. So if you write like 0, 1, and we are going to get this value easy. Now this time if I click on execute, our code was again executed successfully. And now if you come on the debugger section this time, here you can see we are getting a stage name, then we are getting the max amount, and then we are getting the min amount for everything. And this is how this simple thing works. But what happened if you don't want to use this expression 0, expression 1, and you want to give a meaningful name for this? Because if a new coder see this, he will be maybe getting a little bit confused at what you are actually writing. So in this example, we are going to see what happened if we just going to write, and I mean, if we just going to not write this thing, then what we are going to get. So for getting this thing, what we are going to do, we are going to use a different thing. Like here, we need to use dot result dot get max amount or min amount. How we are going to get. So getting these value is actually not very tough. What you need to do, you are just simply need to write these things. Like if I write here, instead of this, let me just give here, instead of here result dot get, this time expression 0, if I write here a meaningful like min amount, result dot get min, what I'm trying to fetch this time. Okay, so this time I'm trying to fetch the maximum. So what I'm going, how I'm going to get the maximum. So if you want to get the max amount, you need to write everything in small letter, and then this will know, this thing will is going to know that you are right now returning the maximum. So if you write result dot get max amount, everything will be in a small letter amount. Then this piece of code is going to know that you are right now returning to the max amount, and it was going to give you that particular piece of code. Like it was going to give you the max amount. But remember, you need to write here result.get in the starting to get this value. Result.get, you need to specify max amount, and it is going to work properly, otherwise not. The same way in the min amount, you are going to write the same thing, otherwise it is not going to work in a appropriate way. So max, then you need to write the amount. So max here actually it should be in capital. And the same thing I'm going to do for the min amount. So let me just copy this piece of code, this message here. And in the place of expression 1, what I'm going to write? I'm just going to write here min amount. So max in the place of max, we have going to min amount. So now if I try to execute this piece of code, this time we are going to get the same result, but we are not writing expression 1, expression 2. And here you see we get again an error. Line 7 column 1 S object expression. Invalid field max amount for aggregate result. So this is the problem which we are going to face sometime when we are trying to do this. Because it was a S object, or you can say system object expression, and we are getting an invalid field max amount. Because it was not able to find this max amount when we are writing this result.get. Now how we are going to solve this particular problem, and it was a little bit challenging. So if you want to solve this problem, you are not having like this. What we are going to do, we are going to make this thing a little bit different. Like if you see here, come here on the starting, here you can say after this max amount, you need to create a variable. Like select the stage name max amount. After this, you need to create a variable which was actually going to store this max amount or trying to refer this max amount. Because right now, we don't have any variable which was referring to this max amount. So we need to create here a variable which was going to refer this max amount. And then this value which we write here, this max amount, is that variable. So here we need to do this. Otherwise, if you write directly anything, it was not going to work properly. So here in this code, what I'm going to do, let me just write here. Okay, so here in the place of max amount, if I write this piece, where it will go, this max amount, let me just copy this, Control C. So max amount after this, if I just write this here, max amount, and I'm going to do the same thing with min amount actually. So Control C. After min amount, I need to also give here the value. So min amount. Now when I did these two parts, this is actually going to work properly, because here we just simply specify the max amount and min amount as a new variable which was actually referring this expression. This max amount was referred by this max amount variable, and the other was going to refer by the other. So here if you see this time these two values is going to refer these two particular max or min amount. So now if this time we are trying to fetch this data, we are able to get these data very easily, because here we just specify a variable which was going to refer these things. Now you need to remember you can write anything. This variable will depend on you what you are going to write. I'm just specifying max amount. You can write anything whatever you want. Now if I click on execute this time, see what we are going to get. Here we get see duplicate alias max amount. Okay, so we are getting actually, okay, so here we are getting duplicate alias. So I need to change it from max to min amount actually. So here you are seeing we are getting the message that duplicate alias. Now alias means a meaningful name which you give to a particular expression, or you can say here you create a basic variable which was going to refer this max amount. I'm just saying that this value, this variable is just referring this, and we are using this variable to print this particular piece of information. Now if I click on this time execute, our code was executed successfully again. And now if you see the debug section again, this time we are able to see the same result but with a meaningful name. And this is going to work very fine, because when you are working on a very big project, at that time this will make your code more readable, because in the last you can see you need to write here expression 0 expression 1. Suppose you have 500 and 400 bigger query, like a query which was going to get 60-70 results, and you need to print not in a single system debug like in 5 debugs. So in first system debug you print 5, and the second system debug we're printing the next 4, then it will become a complicated. But at that time, if you use these aliases, you are able to make your code more readable, and then you will able to print or make your code more improvable. So anyone who comes new to your code will able to understand what you are doing and which particular thing you are trying to review. So this is what aggregate result, and this is how you're going to print these piece of information using your particular debugger console. And this is how you're going to create alias, or you can write the same thing without writing alias. You can say expression. Alias will make your code a little bit slower because we are actually now trying to refer this with a third party variable, or you can say through a breaker. Where if you write expression, the code will be a little bit faster because directly you are referring to this thing. Using expressions will be very good without analysis. Some when you have a small amount of data, like you have only 1, 2, or 3 data, at that time you are able to use this. But if you have data like you are getting like 600 or 700 or like 50 or 70 rows from the table, at that time this is not very good. At that time you need to use the particular bags amount, bin amount, like these type of variable to refer these piece of codes. So let me send this code to all of you. Then we are going to the next step. So this is the code without, the first is with allowed and the second is without allowed. Now let's come to the next code and see what we are going to do. So now we talk about this and these are actually advanced SOQs. So right now we are also covering the advanced SOQL part. After this, the next thing will come in our SOQL, or you can say advanced SQL, is SOQL for loops. Like you see, when you want to write a SOQL query, what you are going to write. So here we are simply able to write a SOQL query inside a loop, and we actually don't need to write anything. Like if I just show you the same code here, let me just give me a second. Oh, I need to copy the code in the chat box. I just remove. So let me just copy that code from the chat box. Okay, so I just need to copy. I just copy it. Okay, let's make on the Chrome. So if you see here, this is the same code which we written a little bit earlier, where we are getting these V values, group results. Now after this, guys, what I'm going to do next? Here you see, if I want to retrieve, we need to use a for loop to write all of these. And here you see, oh, wait a second, aggregate result, group results, main name, main amount, after this. There is here average amount of for, and here is the loop max amount result. After this, okay. So here you see we have the same code here which we just run a little bit ago, and we get this type of value. Now here you see when I want to print this thing, I need to use a for loop. But what happened if I write all of this code inside a for loop? Is this possible for me? Yes. You are able to write everything inside this for loop, means you don't need it to write all the things outside. Means you are also able to execute the same query inside a for loop and directly use inside this for loop. And it will make your code more faster and very, you can say, a small, or you can say it will also reduce the piece of timing or code of timing. How you are going to do this? For this, first of all, you can see for aggregate result, what I need to do, you need to write this piece of code actually inside a for loop. So this piece is going to write inside a for loop like for, and this will be like shift, and this whole part will be inside a for loop like this you see. So now we created a for loop, and inside this for loop, we actually stored all this aggregate result type of thing inside this for loop. And now comes the next part, or the important part. After this, here you can see we just specify our everything. After this, what you need to do, you need to open the body of the loop. And what you are going to do inside the body of the loop, here you need to write, after this, let me just open the body of the loop. And remember one thing, when you are writing like this, what you are going to do, here is the main problem. When you are writing this thing in the place of aggregate result, here you are not going to use this thing actually. Instead of this, you need to use this column to specify that this aggregate result is going to fetch every data from this group result. You need to write like this when you're trying to access this thing. Either you write here the group result or any variable which you want to write. Right, I'm just writing here the result thing. After this is actually done here. But actually we are right now here fetching with results. So I'm just changing this value. from group result to result. See, it depends on you what you need to write, but here if you see in my code, we are actually I'm getting all the value from result. So I just don't want to change anything else. So what I first did, I will just use for loop. After this, when we are writing query, I just aggregate result and the double comma and result. And now this result is going to fetch all of this query from here. Where in the last time, if you remember, we created a variable group result, which was actually fetching this thing. Like here you can see this group result. Now this time, instead of doing this, what I did, I just created the result, and instead of this group result, which I created and stored this value, I directly write all the query inside this for loop. After this, what I need to do, I need to open this body of the loop here, and inside this body of the loop, I need to print the code which is going to print this. And the code is nothing same, it was just going to this system.debug message. So you need to just copy the system.debug message from here. So Control X, and what I'm going to do, I'm just going to write the same piece of code inside here. And now just let me remove this piece here from here and also from here. Now if you see, the whole program was actually done and everything was created successfully. So what we did, first we write for loop aggregate, and let me just rewrite the previous program so I can tell you what we are actually doing here. So let me just write the previous program again. Just give me a second. SQL, yeah, give me a second, guys. Just I need to print the previous one so we will understand what was actually happening here clearly. Okay, let me just come here and make it a little bit more bigger. Okay, just more bigger. Okay, this is good. So this is the first code with loop, and this is without loop. Without loop, and let's see what was the difference between both. Without loop, without query, without loop, query outside of loop, query outside 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 query outside of loop. So this is the program. The first will be query, where query was inside the loop, and this is the second query where query is outside of the loop. Let me just make this a little bit more improving. Okay, that was it. I'll just make this a little bit bigger. Wait a second, guys. So bigger. Okay. So now if you see this, here we have the two codes which we written. If you see the difference between the first and second, what we did. For here you can see you need to focus on this loop because this is the actual means. So this is all the same thing for aggregate result and result. After this, I just write this thing, and here I just create this aggregate result as my variable, and this result is the local variable. And now what this local variable was going to do? Now instead of writing this group result, what I did, I will just created this select state. Means this time I'm not creating any variable which was used for referring this array. Now this time this array was only created, and this result is actually a local variable which was going to fetch all of the data directly without creating a local variable. And after this, what we did, we just close the body of the loop when we write all the query, and we open our code. And inside this, we just write the same system.debug statement which we written here to print our result. Now this is the whole part which we are doing here to print this piece of information, and this is not actually tough, and this is actually one of the easiest things you are going to get here. But inside C, if you see this clearly, we have actually a very small problem, and the problem is this section. Here you don't need to write this. Aggregate result and result is going to be same because this is a data type and this result is the local variable which was going to fetch. Now here is the part that the first time we are fetching this group result which was actually holding these piece of information. But this time what we did, instead of storing all this information inside this group result, we directly call this thing. And this result will now directly access these value and try to print. So if I just make all of this code again command, so if I make this command query outside of loop and try to run only the upper part and click on execute, you will see we are getting error on line 2 column 81. Okay, column line 2 stage name. Okay, so here I think I get the error. Okay, select, let me just see system.debug, select stage name aggregate function. Okay, after this here it should be there. Okay, I think you should not click on execute again. Line 2 column 80 expecting this, but let's just get this execute column. Okay, and I think starting it was. Let me just give me a second, guys. I just need to check whether this problem was occurred actually. Just give me a second. Just rewrite this thing again once more. Control X. Just paste it again. Let's see if this time this will work or not. Okay, go by stage name. This is clear. From here, after this, let's execute this thing again. Okay, now it was executed successfully again. Sometimes you'll get an error because of the columns and the other things which you don't put. And sometimes you get an error due to indentation, because when you're separating a single line with multiple lines, you will also get that. So here you can see we are getting the same amount, but this time we just reduce the code to a very much. Like if you say this time we are actually reducing actually one variable which was storing, and so it will reduce our code very much, and we are able to do this. Let me just make it more readable format. Okay, so this will be system.debug. Okay, this will be there, and this will. I just need to confirm here. Wait a second. Let me send this piece of code to all of you, and I want all of you to try this code and see this work properly or not, and try to use more aggregate results, try to write more queries inside a loop and see how this will work properly. So just send this to you again. So this is the code for this aggregate result. Try to perform this and see what you are going to get. Now we are complete with the advanced SOQL part here, and we understand a lot more inside the advanced SOQL. And this advanced SQL is very useful when you're writing complex queries for your particular project or anything else. Now let's see to the next part of the program or code which we are going to learn. After this, we are going to learn about the main thing in programming language, which is exception handling, or you can say the error handling. Because exception handling is also one of the most crucial thing in programming language, and which is a very, you can say, complicated part. So right now I'm not going to take too much time for you on this part, exception handling, because in SOQL we don't have too much codes for exception handling. And exception handling we have only three keywords. The first is test or cache block, and then we have keywords which was going to give specific exceptions for the particular thing. So right now I'm just going to show you the exception keywords. So just give me a second. Okay, so we are going to show here the first exception overview. So here I'm just going to, by not wasting your time. Okay, so here we have different exceptions in our particular uh, or you can say in our particular Apex programming language, and we just going to see every exceptions and try to understand how we are going to avoid this exception. See, exception handling is also very important. Like here you can see we have these basic exceptions right now in our programming. Okay, actually this will become a little bit better. Just make this a little small. Okay, so uh, so here you can see the first exception we have is the, so the first exception we have is the math exception, like divide by zero exception. So if I try to execute this piece of code, I'm always going to get a result or an error. Let's see what we are going to get. So if I click on execute highlighted, here you see we are getting a math exception, which was a system exception, And this exception you are going to get whenever you divide a number by 0, because this is not possible. So this is a math exception, and we are going to get through the particular system. So there will be a math exceptions, or you can say the syntax statement or the app. After this, we have the next exception, which will be occur, or you can say that this exception is a DML exception, means data manipulation language, where you want to do something which is not actually done here. So if I just come here on this line, and if I try to execute this piece of code, which you see here, which will be here, you can see I'm trying to insert account.acc record equal to new account. Here I just created an account, but this time actually I don't have any value, or I don't add anything inside this ACC rec, and this is empty. And I try to insert ACC rec inside account. So see what happens. So if I click on execute, here you can see DML exception insert field. First exception on row 0, first required field missing, required fields are missing, name and name. So when you don't specify the name, like where you want to insert these things, you are going to get these type of error, and this is known as DML exception. After this DML exceptions, the next thing we have is the null pointer exceptions. Now the null pointer exceptions is, I think everyone already referred with. Like you created a string str, like here you can see we have a string name str, and here what we are doing, we are trying to do here system.debug str to lowercase. So null pointer array, here you can say str is already in the lowercase, and this dot to lowercase is used you can say a method which was used on strings to perform some type of operation. Like this to lower class case makes all the letters a string to a lowercase. But here you can see actually this string is right now invalid. This string does not hold anything. It was an empty list, and we are trying to perform operation on an empty data. At this situation, we are going to get this null pointer exception. So if you click on this time you see we are getting a null pointer exception, and these are actually system exceptions which the system throwing. Means they are the created exceptions which by the system. Now the same way we have one more last exception, and which is this. Let me just come here. And here you can see we are using a keyword name throw. Now we are going to throw an exception programmatically. Like here you can see throw new null pointer exception. So null pointer exception, this is was actually thrown by us, not anything else. So we right now here we are throwing an exception programmatically in a null pointer exception. Now if you click on this time, here you will get line system column 1 system null pointer exception script thrown exception. Means this was a script thrown exceptions, means it was thrown by a script or by the user. And these are the basic things. Guys, just give me a single second. Am I audible to all of you right now? Is my voice clear to all of you? Can anyone please confirm? Anyone can please confirm, is my voice visible to all of you? Okay, thank you very much. So here you can see you can use this throw keyword to throw exception. You can write anything and you can throw this on by programmatically. Now exception handling is very useful because sometimes when you're writing a code, your voice is okay. So sometimes what happens when you try to write some program, in the programming there may be a problem that, or there may be a chance that you write some code which is going to give an exception or error, but you don't want to break the flow of a program. Like if you have a function or if you have something else which you think is going to give an error, but you don't want to break the flow of it. At that time, what you are going to do? So for solving this situation, we are needed to use this exception handling method. Now in exception handling, we have the first thing is the try, catch, and finally block. And this is the best block or most useful thing in our particular code. And we are going to see how we are able to execute these things. So let me just rewrite the things from you already which I written. Because I just don't want to waste too much time on this topic. Okay. So if you come here, if I just paste here you can see what we are doing. First, if I'm going to try everything, I'm just going to start writing before just trying to highlight it, execute highlighted part. So here you can see that the first part is saying system.debug before exception. So if you click on this part, you will be able to see this message. After this, what we did here, we here writing a try exception. And inside try, what I did, I will already write the math exception and given exception, which I just getting error. Like here you can see double result equal to 10 divided by 0, and here system.debug result and result. Now when I did control V, just give me a second. System.debug, where is this will come? Control X. Okay. So now this is going to work fine. And here what we are doing, we are just simply trying this thing here. Now here we are just writing those piece of code which you think is going to produce or going to give some errors, like there may be a chance. Like this is the first code which is always going to give an error, math exception. After this, what we did, we are creating an DML exceptions here, which is also going to produce an exception. So if I just remove this piece of code from here, account.acc, and now this is also going to produce an error. After this, guys, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to execute this try block. Now if you click on this section, you will be able to see from here where this try block will happen. So this try block is here this time. So here, if any part of this going to give exception, we are going to get this message system.debug empty try block. Like if I try to execute this, let's see what we are going to get. So here just this piece and execute highlighted part, and here you see try block must have at least one clause block. So if you want to execute try blocks, you need to have at least one catch block, because right now we are writing try block but we don't have any catch block. So here we are going to write this first catch, which is the exception, and here you need to write the exception name. This is the exception and this is the variable name. So here this is exception E, this is exception F. Like you can create multiple exceptions, like what was going to happen. For example, you created a voice assistant and you find that voice assistant will give an error. You write this in the try catch block and you think there will be 5 types of error was produced. So you can write exception and the exception name. What will be the name? After this, you need to give here the system.debug for generic exception. Now, if I try to this here and just copy this piece of code till here and click on executed highlighter. Now here line 13 column 7, where we are getting this error. Column 7, we're just going to start accepting this, but was what was it was accepting? Let's check it. Accepting this, okay. So it was okay, so this is actually this. Okay, so this time the code was executed successfully. And now if you go to the debugger section this time, you will able to see here we get two exceptions. Before exception, and we get a message called generic exception. Why this was generic exception? We are getting this message because see, both of these are going to produce an exception. When both of these producing an exception, we are going to get this message called generic exception, because this was the first exception. After this, you have a finally keyword. Like either this catch and going to work or not. This finally is always going to work. Means if this catch is going, if there is an exception having or not, this thing is always going to work. This finally is always going to work. So now here you can see this finally called. So now if I try to execute after this piece, or if I try to execute the whole part, now this time you see we are going to execute three things here. So now if you come on the debugger section this time, you see the first thing you're going to see before exception, then you say caught generic exception and finally caught. That means whether your program has any error or not, you're going to find print this finally. And this is also very useful, like in an if and else block, where if the condition of if is going to execute it or not, the else part is going to execute already. So this is the same thing. Finally, is going to execute it if any condition, if this was going to give an exception or not. So this finally block, you can give a message which you want to show to this screener or user that this is the problem you're going to show. So this is what and how you're simply going to write a simple try catch block where you need to first write try, then you have a catch, and then you have a find. Now this is the actually way of writing try, then the body, this will be okay. So this is how actually try will look like. Complete this line. Okay. So this is how your try will going to look like. First you need to write try, then this try has a body. After this body will finish, what you need to write? After this place you need to write catch, which is going to catch the errors which you are going to give from this body. And remember, in try block you're going to write the exception code. You need to remember this thing. In try block you need to write the exception code. Exception code. Now inside catch block, what you are going to write here in the catch block, you need to write here the exception. So for this, first of all, you need to a bracket, and inside this, the first thing you are going to write exception and a variable name which is the exception name or whatever. So first thing you are going to write exception. After this, the second thing you are going to write inside this is the variable name or the exception name which you want to give. So here you give the name, and after this, here comes the exception body or the catch body for this. And this body is going to be either inside again double quotes or you can say this curly braces. After this catch, wherever your catch will finish, after here the body, you need to write the finally block. And inside the finally block, you don't have actually a condition because this block is going to execute either this try has an exception code or not, either this catch will work or not. This finally code is always going to be executed. Going to execute it, it doesn't matter whether the code have an error or not. Going to execute it in any condition. Executed. So now this is the, you can say the body frame how a try catch block will work. So let's just copy this thing. Control X and to all of you. Control V. So this is the body how you're going to write a try catch block. This is the piece of code which you will try and see how this works. Okay, guys. Now the next question is coming here is how we are going to write a new program or some new course for this particular sequence. Like after try catch block, we also have something else in the exception handling, and that is important. Now after the try catch block, the next thing you have is throw errors or other things. Like here we have already some exception methods in Apex. Like Apex also give you some exception methods by default, which we are going to give some methods by directly. Now let's see these methods and understand what are these methods actually and how these methods is actually working. So if I just show you the same code again, which I write here with a little bit modification this time. So if you see the same code here this time with a little bit modification. Now this time let's just before exception. Okay. So here you can see first we write the same thing try block like same block with DML exceptions like this. Just remove this code. Actually, I don't want this thing also. So here you can see here what we did was write system.debug. Means if both are going to execute properly, we are going to print this. But if this is not going to work, here we have a method called catch block, and this catch is going to give an exception E. Now what is this exception E this time? This time if you see this here, we are going to give here exception the same. But here instead of writing the body, we are actually calling some method. Like here you can see we have four very important methods in a particular, you can say, exception handling, which was going to give us a result. And how you're going to call this method, you need to remember the variable you are creating, you need to call this method using this variable by using dot function. Now the first thing you have is the cause. Now this method is going to tell you what is the cause of the, so cause, how you're going to get this, the method name is dot get cause, and you will able to get this method, and it was going to give you a message like what is the cause. After this, here is the method e dot get message, and this is the message which you want to show to the particular system. After this, here is the line number that it was going to tell you on which line number this exception was actually handled. And after this state trace, it was going to give you the state trace ring. Now let's try to execute this thing and see what is here. So if I just copy this whole code and click on execute, here you see the code was executed again successfully. And now if I come on the debug section this time, you see what we are going to get. Here we are getting before exception. Here we are getting a cause, that cause is null. Now you're so thinking why we are getting this cause null. See, because actually here it was just checking this one and it was going to give us the result for this one. So it was telling that this is the cause is null. Message divided by 0, 1. So it was also giving us the causes. First cause will be null value, then second message divide by 0. What is the message here? The message is it was divided by 0, and what it is a message which is the exception. Also it was telling on which line this error was actually handling. So this error was actually handling on line number 4. Here we get a straight trace anomalous line 4 column 1. Means it was also going to trace on which line and which column this was finally happening. After this we finally called an after exception. Now this is how these things were actually happening. So you will get these three values: dot get call, dot get message, get line number, get straight trace string. Now this straight trace string is useful for telling on which accurate place the particular execution happening, the problem was happening. The get line number was telling on which line the problem happening. Get message was going to produce a message. The get call is used for telling us. And these are very useful when you are dealing with a very complex function. At that time, this piece of information is important. Right now, this is not very important because this is a simple method and it was going to produce an error like the same. So this is not that much important, but when you are dealing with a very complex data set or a very complex method, this time these piece of or these piece of codes is very useful. So at that time, you can use these things very useful or these methods. Now let me send these methods to all of you also. Okay, let me just send this to all of you. Okay, so these are actually the exception handling methods which we are going to talk about here. Okay, after this, let's go and see the next thing which we are talking right now about here. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the throw keyword. Like right now, I need to talk about throw keyword. Like what is actually a throw keyword? Because we talk about try, catch, and finally, and now we are going to talk about throw. See, throw keyword was used for creating or throwing a programmatical exception which you want to throw on the screen. Means you create your own exceptions and you can throw using the throw keyword. Let's see how this throw keywords work actually. So if you talk about the throw keyword, throw is very useful and it was a custom exception which we created for the particular use. But for this, what I'm going to do first, I'm going to create a very simple thing, a custom apex class, and using this class, I'm going to throw an error. So how I'm going to create a class, I think everyone already know how to create a class. For this, we need to click on File, and here I'm going to create my Epic class. And here I'm just naming it custom throw. Always try to give a meaningful name to your classes, which will be custom. So here we created a class named custom throw. And inside this class, actually, I'm not going to write too much. If you see, this is a class, public class custom. And here I just need to write a very small thing. Just give me a second. Okay, so here what I need to do, here I need to write a keyword. What I'm going to do in this class, I'm going to expand or something. And what I'm going to extend here, I'm going to here extend the exception class, which is having some properties of exception. So you see this public class as custom throw. Here what I'm going to write here I'm going to write extends, and what after this, I need to extend what? Exceptions. Exception is a system class. If you see the starting exceptions, you remember that extend exception is a exception is a system class which has different exception, which was just created by the system by default. And now here we did the same part. We created exception here again, and we just call this. After this, what you need to do? We are simply just going to save this code and nothing. Now, if you see in the initial stage, here we get a problem line. And if you see this problem, here you will get classes extending exception must have a name ending in exception custom through. Here you can see it was clearly telling that the class which was actually extending exceptions has a custom name ending with exception. Means this is not one word. So I either need to change this name to an exception. So you need to remember this thing whenever you try to extend the exception class in a custom class which you created, the last name should always end with exception, otherwise it was going to produce an error. Now here you see when I just do this thing, now this time this problem was solved. Now if I click on file this time, try to save this, let's see what. So if I click on save, here you see this time we don't have any problem because we just solved the problem customs exception. Now this class was saved and this class was actually now holds all the properties of this exception class. And now we are going to use this exception class or the custom throw exception class to throw exception. And let's see how we are. Wait a second. So now here we are going to throw here our exception using our developer console. And here we are going to write our code which is going to throw some exception. For this, I'm not going to write anything. I'm just going to write the same code which I write previously, and we're just going to change a little bit inside. So if you remember that code clearly, this is the piece of code, and what I just made a little bit changes this time. And the changes in here, you can see everything is going to system.debug before exception try. Now here what I did, I will use this throw new keyword to throw a new exception. After this, here what I need to write, wait a second. Here I need to write the class name which I am trying to access. So here you need to write your class name. So the class name is here, if you see this custom throw exception. So throw new custom throw exception. So right now we are throwing a new exception using this class which is custom throw exception which we created just now, and this class is right now holding all of the exceptions. So here we just pass a method that my custom exception. After this, you can see what we did. We just write the same thing here. Catch exception C system.debug. Here we get us some message. Now this time, if I try to execute this, let's see what we are going to do this. So if I click on execute, here you see everything is going to execute. And here, if you click on this section, debug, here you see we are getting different things on there. Before exception, cause null, my custom exceptions, line number 3, traceback anonymous, line 3, column 1, finally called execution here. And why we are getting this error? So here you can see we are actually trying through new keyword. So what we did, throw, and then we use new keyword to create an instance of this class, which will be this custom throw exception. And here we just write a message, my custom exception. After this, you see, actually, we are getting this here, the problem. Because this clause is null, because this class is actually null, this custom throw exception. But as we already handle or get all the exceptions, that's why we are able to print this message, my custom exception. This message, which will getting this through this dot gas cause. After this, here you can see we get on line number 3 and other information. And these all are done through our custom class, which this custom exception class, which we just created. And this is how you are able to throw a new custom exception by just using this throw keyword. So you can use throw keyword to also create or throw custom exception which you want to throw to the user. And this is useful when you want to throw your own exceptions which you just find or you created in the programming language, like these type of exceptions will also handle. Now let's see the next thing which we are going to talk about in programming language. The next thing which we are going to talk in programming is the governor limits and code bulkification. Now, what is the meaning of governor limits and code bulkification? So this is actually a theoretical part, and try to understand what is the limits in the code and what is the how we can minimize our code, how we can reduce the code. Now, this is the thing which we are going to talk about. For this, if I go to a new page, let me just search here for, instead of this, let me just open that thing, governor limits. So if you search on the Google like governor limits in Salesforce, you will open this section, Apex governor limits. And when you open this Apex governor limits, this is the important part to learn about, because this is very important things when you are beginning a Salesforce developer or a Salesforce coder. Because if you don't understand the importance of governor limits, you will end up writing queries or you will end up writing programs very long without writing this, and you see you will get many type of error. Because you see, Apex is actually a cloud based, or you can say a server based programming language. So you have also very foundation which you need to be in your mind when you're trying to write a code. So you need to follow these foundations also. Now if you see this governor limits restriction here, he is saying, because on Apex run in a multi-tenant environment, if you already know about multi-tenant environment means there are multiple users using the same structure, same infrastructure at the same time for accessing the Salesforce platform. So this is the meaning of multi-tenant. So because Apex run in a multi-tenant environment, the Apex runtime engine
Students, kindly wait. I think there is some network issue. He will rejoin back. Kindly wait.
Okay, everyone, am I audible to you right now? Can anyone please confirm?
You're audible, sir.
Just let me share the screen to you all of you. So, just share the windows. Okay, now I think everyone is able to see my screen right now. So what I'm trying to talking here, if you see here, right now here on the apex corner, in the first statement say that we are allowed to execute total number of SQL. Means we are only allowed to execute 100 SQL queries, not more than that. What does that mean? So if I come here and if I try to open this developer console, and if I click here on the developer console and open this in the new tab, it is going to. So now the meaning of executing 100 queries is that we are only able to execute 100 SQL, or you can say Salesforce object query language. We are only allowed to execute 100 SQL queries. But it doesn't matter that you are only going to get 100 results. So what it will means, if you come on the query editor, you write here a simple query. Let me just open this file to show you something else. So click on open resource, and I'm just opening here an object, right? Let's suppose account object. So account. Okay, let me just open this account object. Open. And now suppose I'm just taking this shift control. After this, I just parent ID, billing state. Let's suppose I'm getting different things like this. Also, I'm also getting this website also. Also, I'm getting this industry information also. So, industry. I'm putting this rating also. Rating also. I'm also getting site, owner ID. I'm getting these values. Suppose I'm getting also this. Also I'm getting this name, this type, the billing setting. So now if I click on query for this, you see I get a query from here, a very big query. And now if I click on this query to execute, if I click and click on this query to execute, I'm getting this piece of information right now here. And this is select ID. Right now the meaning is we are only allowed to execute 100 queries like this. So this is the first query. And you see in a single query, it just click on the logs. And if I just show you this time, let me show you the query editor here. Here if you are seeing this, let me just open this. And if I just show you the logs for this, here is the logs. Here we are not able to query. So here you can see we are getting that much piece of information right now. And if you write the same query inside Apex based programming language, if I open this debugger section and if I just create a list, suppose here you can see we have a map right now. And like this, you see I have a list here. Just delete everything. I'm just going to copy this piece code and just remove this also. Okay. So here you see right now I have a list of the string, and instead of the string you need to remember number of employees, and here I just use account value. Now instead of this, what I'm going to do here sorry, here I have a list of a string. The name is number of employees, and inside this I'm just going to pass here a query like this thing, this string value, and I'm going to pass here the all of the value. Like this time I'm just going to copy this here, select, and here from account, and instead of putting all this information, I'm just going to put a little bit like select uh okay, not till this, till owner ID. I'm going to remove this. I just rating side also this. I'm just want to print industry. So I'm just going to print select industry from this, and I'm storing this piece of information in this string list, which is number of employee. Select industry from account. Now if I click on execute here, you see here we get an error on line 2 column 5. Okay, line 2 list string number of. I need to create a new instance of here actually also. So new keyword, and then list string. Okay, So Control C, new keyword, then the system here, which is going to store this, and here we are needed to write this thing inside a curly braces. So program know that this is what it is written. Now if we click on execute this time, again I'm getting the same change from list to account type. So account, and from here also account. Let's try to make this work. Just give me a second. Account here also. So account, no, account. Let's try to run the system. So now we are getting on column 8 actually. Okay, due to some reasons, I just this is not working. But the main question concern is here that when you try to execute this, you are allowed to execute 100 queries like this. Means you are able to execute 100 queries. And if you see the query result, you will get total 35 rows here. And if you see, you'll get 35 rows like these are the rows. And if you see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8, and you are getting 8 columns right now here. So you are going to getting 8 columns and 32 rows. And if you click on open detail page here, actually it was not opening, then you are able to see all the details of this particular section also, like what was actually happening here. Now you see you are able to execute 100 queries like this in a single Apex program if it was a basic synchronous limit. If it was in a synchronous limit, then we are able to execute 100 like this. Now after synchronous, if you see the second thing is to total number of records retrieved by SQL query. Like how many records you are going to retrieve from a SQL query, and this is important. So if you see, if you are using a synchronous limit, like here you can see in the first time, if you see how many records we are actually retrieving. So synchronous limit telling that you are able to retrieve 50,000 records in both. Either it was synchronous or either it was asynchronous. In both cases, you are only allowed to use 50,000, not more than that. So if you use more than 50,000, you're going to get an error or you're going to produce an error which is irresponsible then. So right now, if you say in this particular section, we are actually getting these much of records, and these are actually records. So every record here, if you see, there are 35 rows. And if you talk about total records, here we have too much records. Now here I think we have already 100 and 1000 records, which we are right now talking. But the question is here, if you just exceed the limit, like after 50,000, you're going to get again a error through the corner limits. After this, you think the next thing is total number of record retrieved by database.query locator. Like if you use the database methods like database.query get query located, at that time you're only allowed to use 10,000 in both. Total number of SOSL query Salesforce object structure language query issued 20 and 20. So total number of SOSL query you can issue is 20 and 20. After this, total number of records retrieved by SOSL query 2000. Total number of DML structure. DML issued means total number of data manipulation. How many you are going to show? Means 150. Means you can write 150 statements which was going to perform DML statements. Total number of records processed as a result of DML statement, approval process or database empty cycle. Means how many records was going to approved or processed is like 10,000 in the book. After this, here you can see there are different types of, you can see governor limits, which was right now here. And I want all of you to study this thing to understand how many things you are going to load this. Like here you can see maximum number of Apex job added to the queue with system.as job. Means 50 job was maximum added. After you say total number of send email method allowed. Like if you created a method which was going to send email, we are going to also see this method also, which I am also needed to tell you. So if you want to create a method like which was used for send email, or you created a method which was used for sending bulk messages on like social media platform like on WhatsApp or any other platform, what is the total number of methods allowed? Like 10. So either it was send email method or send WhatsApp method, whatever. You're only allowed to write 10 methods, not more than. What is the heap size? Like if you see right now, we are actually running everything inside this. So here we got a heap size of 6 MB, like in this time. So all of the program, all of whatever we are writing is actually working on the heap size. Like these are things. Those who are running on anonymous window. And if you want to save this, they are not actually running on heap, they're actually storing on the server. After this, if you see the next statement, let me just show the next statement. The time limit. What is the time limit of executing a particular query? So if I come here, like here you can see we get 6 MB in the particular synchronous and 12 MB on the asynchronous. Maximum CPU time of Salesforce server, we get 10,000 milliseconds, which will be, if you divide one second will be like 100, so it will be like 1,000 seconds or like 100 seconds. And asynchronous, you'll get 60,000 of milliseconds. Maximum execution time for each Apex transaction. Maximum, see, this was talking about maximum time it was taking to execute a particular transaction was 10 minutes and 10 minutes. Maximum number of push notification, like this was information. Maximum number of cursor fetch call per transaction per cursor. Like these are the basic things you can simply study and see what is the limits. Like maximum number of Apex cursor fetched by per day aggregate 100 million, 100 million. So these are the basic, or you can say the minimal governor limits which we need to follow. And there are some things like here you can see API required limit and allocation connect rest. And here you can see API query cursor, SOAP API, metadata limits, SOQL and SOQ. These are actually important. You need to study about the SOQL, which was very important, or you can see the metadata limits also, because metadata limits is very important. Like what is the important and how you are going to use metadata. So if you click on the metadata limits, and if I just go and scroll a little bit, here you can see what is the metadata. Like make up to 25 retrieve requests, a single retrieve request using the root type. So here you can go and see every data type and what is the governor limits and code bulkification, and how you can follow these limits to minimize your code, like creating a for loop, running a quick query inside a for loop, which will make very easy, because if you don't run a query inside a for loop, you need to run the same query 2 times. And if you run the query in the for loop, then you don't need to run the same query 2 times. You only run the same query 1 time, and you are able to print the regarding result. We already see the problems when we are using the aggregate function. Now let me try to show you a simple probe code which was going to give you or you can say it was going to give a basic thing, or you can say a simple code which was going to print the name of the industry. So how we are going to get this? So for this, let's just come here on the here. Okay, so let me just come on the developer section and let me show you what I want to do. So just remove this thing and now just paste this one. Okay, so here you can see what we did. I just created an account name which has a new instant ACC, and inside this ACC I am running a query which was just getting select industry from account, and here we get use a value limit 1. You can either use limit 1 or you can not. So we are using limit 1 only to show the basic information. So if I change from limit 1 to limit 5, it was going to do the limit 5. And after this, what I did, I will just simply print system.debug ACC, this was, and system.debug industry plus ACC.industry. So now if I click on execute this time, here you can see list has more than one rows for assigning to n of all s object. So in line 2, we are getting this column error, like we are getting this thing. But if I change this 5 to 1, let's see what that is. Now here you see this time it was working fine because we are actually using only one object or ACC. Now if I click on here, account industrial electronics ID will be this, and industry is electronics. So we get this thing, but we don't actually need this thing to see. Now if I click on this here, if you go a little bit down, and this is the things we are seeing. Like here you can see number of queries right now rows. So one query run out of 500. Number of SOQL query run 0 out of 200. Like number of DML statement run like 0 out of 8. Like here you can see there are different things. But what happened if I run this thing and see how much records we are actually getting? So if you just go a little bit scroll down, SOQL number of SOQL row we are getting 1 out of 500. And here we are, if you just go a little bit down, we are able to also see the records. Okay. Okay. So we just need a, okay. So what happened if I just try to execute the same thing, but this time instead of writing this, what happened if I try to execute that much code here and see how much we are getting the rows. So if you try to write the same code here, we are going to get different fields, and we are able to get more results. And this will become a little bit complicated, because when you are getting very much high records and when you are seeing too much records, at that time what you need to do, you need to make sure that you make your code bulkified. Means you need to minimize your code very much. like not writing too much queries, only retrieving those information which was important, trying to run the insert operation only once. If you try to insert multiple data, try to only run the insert operation once. Like these type of limits you need to follow. And if you want to see those things, you need to just come here on the Salesforce and you need to search. Here you are seeing developer limits. And if you search on here, the governor limits, you will also able to see the governor limits. Like governor limits, governor. Now you already see the governor limits. What you need to do here, you can say bulkification. And when you search for bulkification, okay, it was not actually showing bulkification. Let me search here. Apex bulkification. Code. So if you search for Apex code bulkification, here you will get the bulkification of Apex trigger and other times. Now, what is the meaning of bulkification? As a writing code that can efficiently handle multiple records at once rather than processing them individually. Right? You are not going to write every record multiple times. You are just going to write everything in a single time. So if you search for effect bulk Apex trigger, here you will find a full, you can say, a basic research. If you study this, you'll able to find how bulkification actually works, what is the bulkification, and how you're going to perform bulkification. So for this, I will suggest you will go to the this Spinker supports, and here you will able to understand what is bulkification, why we use bulkification, and importance of bulkification. So this is what you need to learn. We completed this part also. So we also know about the governor limits and the code bulkification. Code bulkification means minimizing your code, where you are doing whatever you are doing individually. You need to be do that things in a group to perform or to reduce the time of execution. So this is what we are talking till now. From tomorrow we are going to talk about the triggers and the frameworks which we are using from the front end designing in the apples. So that's all for today. Try to go through this website and see what is actually code bulkification and how we use code bulkification. That's all for today, guys. Have a good night. Let's meet tomorrow. So Smita ma'am, this is the end from my side.
Yeah, okay, sir. Thank you. We'll meet again by tomorrow at 7 p.m. Yeah, so dear students, it's just a reminder. Kindly mark your attendance. The attendance link which I have shared in chat already. 60% of attendance is mandatory to get a certificate. Okay. Fine. We'll all wind up for the day. We'll meet again by tomorrow at 7 p.m. Thank you all. Thank you for joining.